Last month, I ranked the original numbers from Back to the Future the musical. But of course, the movie was already so musical to begin with, so the musical had to include the movie's tunes. Well, most of them. Sorry, Time Bomb Town, Mr. Sandman, Ballad of Davy Crockett, The Wallflower, Night Train, Pledging My Love, and Heaven is One Step Away. Welcome to the D-List, the show where I list things and my name begins with a D. And today, I'm ranking Back to the Future, the musical's use of songs and score from the film's soundtrack. And when I say I'm ranking the use, there's a lot of factors at play here. Factors like how I feel about the song on its own, how it's staged, how it's woven into the narrative, how it matches the use in the movie, how it differs from the use in the movie, and approximately 1.21 million other variables. So, ranking this is not only more difficult than ranking the musical's original numbers, it's probably a more pointless exercise. But if I put my mind to it, I can accomplish anything pointless, so let's get started. Number 9. Don't Drive 88. This is an adaptation of the end of the 85 Twin Pines Mall track from the film score, renamed after a solemn warning that Doc gives to Marty.
Whatever you do, don't drive 88!
Yeah, partially out of gunplay sensitivity, perhaps partially out of racial sensitivity, but mostly out of staging practicality, Doc is no longer shot to death, but is instead succumbing to radiation poisoning. Which is not really less dark than in the movie.
Doc, you gonna let me help you? Doc, you're dying!
So Marty's not being chased, he's just racing to the hospital, which still has a sense of urgency, but it doesn't have that let's see if you bastards can do 90 moment that really kicks things into high gear. Still, this is the first time we're seeing a taste of what the DeLorean can do on stage, and it's establishing that while the human characters may get new songs of their own, the DeLorean is getting that classic score. Number 8. Johnny Be Good. Marty plays an oldie? Well, it's an oldie where he comes from. I honestly have mixed feelings about even including Johnny Be Good at all, because on the one hand, it is probably the movie's most iconic musical scene. It's the culmination of Marty's arc of no longer fearing rejection, and if you didn't have it, fans would wonder why it was missing. But on the other hand, it's a lot of stage time to eat up with a cover of a cover.
Way down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, way back up in with some money evergreens. They stood a log cabin made of earth and wood. Well, if the country boy named Johnny Be Good. Don't
get me wrong, it's at least an energetic cover of a cover, and the choreography adds a lot. The dancers are going wild.
Go, Johnny, go, go! Go, Johnny, go, go, go! Go, Johnny, go, go!
Now, in development, they really tried to include the Chuck Berry phone call in the show, but the staging was awkward and the dialogue slowed things down, so it was removed. So if you're only going to the show to see jokes you've already seen before, I'm sorry to disappoint you there. You're not going to get Lone Pine Mall either. I'm sorry.
Johnny Be Good.
Also, remember how in the movie, Marty only does the first verse of Johnny Be Good, but in the movie's soundtrack, he does all 3 verses? In the cast recording, he does the first and third verse. I don't know why he skips the second. But the cast recording also has the guitar solo at the end, which the movie soundtrack doesn't, because I guess the soundtrack collectors just weren't ready for that yet. Number 7. The Letter. This is the track when Marty is writing his letter to Doc in the future. Obviously, the contents of the letter are a little different, but the emotion behind it is the same.
It's just knowing I'm gonna live to see 1985, that I'm gonna succeed in this, that I'll have the chance to travel through time.
Well, mostly the same. In the movie, Marty's heartbroken here because he knows that Doc will never have the chance to travel through time. In the show, since there's no Einstein to become the world's first time traveler, Doc tests the DeLorean himself, so he does get to do a little bit of time traveling before he dies. Maybe not enough to really count, but a little bit. So maybe that strips away one tiny thread of poignancy, but just a tiny one. Marty's still sad that Doc's gonna die.
On the night that I go back in time, you collapse from plutonium radiation poisoning.
The core emotion, Marty trying his desperate last effort to save Doc's life, remains the same. And as mentioned last month, it leads into the Only a Matter of Time reprise, which doubles as a Wherever We're Going reprise, so the second half of this track is not eligible this month. Number 6. Overture. Rather than a blend of the various tunes we'll be hearing later, Back to the Future the Musical's Overture is just a slightly abridged version of the movie's Overture. I don't mind it. It gets us in the mood for a story we already love, and on the scrim, we get to see as we are taken from whatever theater we're currently in back in time to Hill Valley, 1985. It's a rather short overture, but it starts us off on familiar musical footing before we get into the more original tunes, which also start on familiar-ish footing with Only a Matter of Time. In the demos, they just use the opening fanfare of the overture to lead into Only a Matter of Time, and yeah, I've already talked about how separating that from the score as much as they did was the right move, and yeah, having just this whole fanfare play, this whole overture play, this was definitely the right move. Number 5. Back in Time. Much like this was the end credit song of the movie, this is the post-curtain call song of the show, sending everyone out with a tune they already know and love as a Doc and Marty duet.
Jump back to future on one roll of the dice. Better remember, lightning never strikes twice.
A Doc and Marty duet with a Goldie Wilson interruption.
All I wanted to do, only wanted to do, was play my guitar and say,
Have I mentioned how much I love Goldie Wilson in the show?
take me away, I don't mind.
The song is performed pretty straightforwardly, and it may not be worked into the show particularly creatively, but it is worked in effectively. The choreography is a lot of fun, and the Doc and Marty backup dancers are a nice touch.
Go back in time, back. Go back in time, back.
But at one point, it was going to be reworked into something else. For a while, the crew was looking for an Act 1 closer, and something about that boy at the time just wasn't cutting it, so they decided to add a scene outside the school of Marty pleading with Doc to help because the stakes just got real.
Help me, doctor, and get me out of this time.
Bob Gale reworked the lyrics of Huey's song to fit the narrative, and this was part of the show for so long that the reworked Back in Time was recorded and released to build anticipation for the show. It's not on the demo disc, but it was released on YouTube.
Out of the 50s and back to 1985.
Not gonna lie, it's clunky. I get the instinct, I get why it made sense, and it comes close to working, it really does, but every changed lyric here just reminds me that the original lyric was better.
So take me away, use your mind. You gotta just promise me I'll be back in time.
I don't know, maybe it's a song that only works as an abstraction, as a mishmash of referencing iconography from the movie we just saw, and once you try to make it literal, it just falls apart.
When you drive 88, don't wanna be late again.
Fortunately, in development, something about that boy grew bigger and better until it became the banger Act 1 closer that it is, and Back in Time was sent back to where it belongs, celebratorily closing the show.
You gotta get back in time.
Number 4. The Clock Tower. This naturally underscores the Clock Tower scene, so it starts with a translation to stage of what is honestly the most musical theater-ish moment in the movie.
Damn, where is that kid? Damn. Damn.
That doesn't lead right into singing, but, you know, It could.
Damn, damn.
Damn, damn. I've grown accustomed to her face.
Wait a minute. Doc Higgins, are you telling me you made a debutante out of a flower girl? My Fair Marty, it writes itself. But no, this doesn't lead to singing, it just leads to the action set piece, set to a condensed version of the clock tower track from the movie soundtrack. And it's phenomenally impressive the way they translated the sequence to the stage, but that's where we get to the uphill battle this track fights with me, which is in no way the track's fault. It is my own stupid brain's fault. I've seen this movie so many times that I have this sequence in the film pretty much memorized, and I know every camera cut that goes with every note of the score. So shaving a few minutes off the score is already throwing me, even before you get to the fact that what we see on stage while hearing the score doesn't match what we see in the film while hearing the score. Again, not the show's fault. It's a sequence that can only be done cinematically. It relies on the tools of film, of close-up and montage, things that simply can't be recreated on the stage. And honestly, they do a much better job of translating it to the stage than I ever thought possible. The use of scrims, projections, and lighting cues help create a sense of montage happening right in front of your eyes. It's not the exact same montage we get on film, but again, not the show's fault that my stupid brain is associating every note with a specific shot. Would it have been better if they hadn't stuck so closely to the original score here? If Silvestri had just composed a fully new clock tower piece for the sequence? I probably wouldn't go that far because this is one of Alan's absolute best pieces, so incorporating it into the show was probably the right move. Again, it's just my dumbass brain that's having trouble reconciling the score with different visuals.
The cable detached. I'll have to go up there and reconnect it myself.
But Doc, you're afraid of heights!
No, Marty, I'm terrified of heights.
But no matter how much hearing familiar score with unfamiliar visuals may distract me, it's all worth it for that crescendo into the For the Dreamers reprise.
One grain of sand becomes a pearl.
I know I already praised it last month, but seriously, that might be the moment that best marries the movie's music and the show's original music. It just feels so triumphant. I just love it.
This one's for the dreamers, like me.
Number 3. Doc returns. Doc interrupts Marty's performance to take Marty back to the future.
Marty, you gotta come back with me.
Back to the future, it's incredible, you're not gonna believe your eyes, get in the car!
And it's the score from the final shot of the movie, but extended a little bit, and with musical instrumentation coming in. And one last reprise of Only a Matter of Time to send us out on a pretty good marriage of the film's original music and the show's original music. But really, most of the audience isn't paying that much attention to the music. We're watching what that DeLorean does. It's incredible. It has to be seen to be believed. Number 2. Earth Angel. Marvin Berry sings One for All You Lovers, as George works up the courage to kiss Lorraine before being interrupted.
Earth angel, will you be mine? My darling dear, love you all the time.
Narratively, it plays out basically like it does in the movie, but for a scene that plays out so much in close-ups, translating this to the stage must have been a challenge.
Scram McFly, I'm cutting in.
and evermore.
Like, we can't see Marty's hand fading on stage. We can't shift focus from character to character the way we do on screen. This all just has to play out in the proscenium.
Stop it! Hey, come on, let's go.
Excuse me.
But we can still have the singing fade into the background and then swell back up again at the key moment.
The vision of your happiness, angel.
And something the musical can add to the scene, George and Lorraine singing along.
I'm just a fool in love with you.
Honestly, that makes all of the emotional difference. I know it's making the subtext text, but that's what musicals are about, having characters sing their feelings, and there's no better way to show the moment that George and Lorraine truly fall in love. And the number one use of a track from the movie in Back to the Future the Musical, The Power of Love. This song opens the movie, or close to it, but it closes the show, or close to it. There's two others from this list that come after its use as the finale in the show. And also, first a snippet of it is heard in Marty's audition.
Make a one man weep.
Hello?
Make another man sing.
Hello. Your audition's over, McFly.
Principal Strickland, I don't understand.
That song is crap.
Jeez, I guess in the show at least Marty gets to sing before his audition is interrupted, but man, Strickland is way more harsh than teacher Huey Lewis is.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
But in the end, in the fixed timeline, Marty and the Pinheads get to sing the full song.
The power of love is a curious thing. Make a one man weep, make another man sing.
What I like about using the song at the end is not just the rather savvy move of sending everyone out on a tune that you know the audience already likes, but it's reinforcing the true happy ending of the movie. A common criticism of the ending of the original film is how materialistic it is. Marty's happy now because his family's rich. Go Reagan's America! And while I understand that criticism, what it misses is that being successful is not the reason the McFlys are happier in the new 1985 than they were in the old one. The reason they're happier is that George and Lorraine actually love each other now.
We need a rematch, George.
Oh, a rematch? Why? Were you cheating?
No.
Now the relationship isn't based on pity. Now it's based on mutual respect and shared interests. And a common enemy that they keep weirdly close, but at its core, their happiness comes not from their newfound wealth, but from the power of love. It's just a little bonus that they now have money, fame, and a credit card to ride that train.
It's strong and it's sudden and it's cruel sometimes, but it might just save your life. That's the power of love.
So using this song as the denouement reminds us that the story really was about the power of love. Also, Goldie Wilson showboats his way into the song, and Marty rolls with it.
The next time you feel it might make you mad, but you'll be glad, baby, when you found
That's the power.
that makes the world go round.
Seriously, Goldie Wilson, favorite character from the musical, hands down.
You feel the power of love.
And that's my ranking of the jukebox musical parts of Back to the Future the Musical. But which tune do you think was used best? And do you think the whole show should have been a jukebox musical, or do you think it was strengthened by the songs we talked about last month? Let's discuss this all in the comments, and until next time, this is Dave, signing off.